Well, I think it's. I think it's.
Francis.
That is a Francis, definitely.
Actually, we might need clarification on the question. How do you stop it? It could be
Stromboli.
like what Killian posted in. Do you have Killian's questions?
I have
up?
Killian's questions.
I think it has something more to do with.
Felicity.
Wow.
Well, we'll get there. But we're officially live.
Oh, whoa.
Railroading.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's. So hi, internets.
Your camera's right here.
Ah,
Our
oh my
camera's here.
gosh.
Greg's camera's
Look
right
at him,
there.
he's got a little hat on.
That's a Pikachu right here. Oh my gosh, this is big.
I have to have all the ones with hats. Give me 5 seconds.
So, I know. This is actually last week's Monday stream with my normal ethereal campaign. We're in the ethereal plane. Like we spent like the first 20 minutes like talking about Pokemon and how one is two of them are a couple, and they've found that they get. I think I told you this. They found that when they swap
Yeah.
to open each other's packs, that they get better cards. I don't know if you tested that out or not, but
I did not. No.
He did not, because he hates you.
well, let's. Wow.
Captain Crunch, I love that.
His name's Captain Crunch.
The extreme perspective that just because someone didn't do a generic idea I suggested might be
Dude, guess what?
useful,
Then you're
that
delusional.
now they hate me.
You're
There's a
delusional.
Greg, guess what?
distinction
Guess
there.
what?
This is how this works.
Guess.
We are officially live. By the way, I said that like 5 minutes ago. Yes, ma'am?
Look, Dr. Greg Fields just
Oh,
went
snap.
live.
Can you check the sound? Because I actually didn't make
Yeah,
sure
I
all my
can
sound
check
stuff
the
was on. For
sound.
instance, that should probably
Can you
power
send me the
on.
stream, Noella?
Why?
Is
Just
the
do
green light
it.
on your mic?
Thank you.
Green.
Okay.
She never does
And the
it.
green light's on mine, so that probably will make sure you and I can actually be heard now.
Why is the saturation
How about
so
now?
far up?
On who? On you?
On us.
Everyone.
You kind of look fire
Everyone
in this.
except you.
I can pull your saturation back.
It
Do you
looks
feel
like
it's too
everything's
much? I like it
working.
to be colorful, but if it's too colorful, I can pull that back.
It's too colorful.
All right, I'll pull
Noella
it.
looks great, but it's clowncore.
I look like I'm on fire.
Encore.
I love clowns.
Look, for the I have
Black and
stage
white,
lighting
right?
training.
Just like
That's
the
it.
light.
There we go.
I don't have like video. I'm learning my videography. No, that's not it. Okay. But our sound is working. You said.
I'm Jaden
Yes,
today.
the sound is
Also,
working.
sometimes
Assuming
the-
Jaden. I'm good too.
All right. So, anyways, we are here today, thankfully, with Malik Toms.
Finally.
Professor at Chandler Gilbert Community College and renowned author, published
Yes,
tabletop
the sound is
role-playing
working.
game author and novelist.
I be writing
Okay.
these things.
Yeah.
So much better.
So
Whoa, for
cool
real?
things. And so we get to have fun exploring the mashup. And this is going to be more targeted because, we've done interviews with anthropology or astronomy, and that was like the science of science fiction fantasy. But this is, I think, going to be a lot more along the lines. I think people have more questions about leaning into story and the actual work of getting published. That's probably the questions. But yeah, so just as a heads up. But anything you want to talk about, we can just shoot the breeze for a while.
Never try
too.
to publish. Editors will try to kill you.
Whoa, whoa.
It wouldn't be the
Never
first
follow
time.
your dreams.
So
Let your dreams die right here.
that's definitely.
Not it.
Don't even try, you'll be
You're just
disappointed.
trying to
Here we go
make
again.
just decrease competition. Like,
This
that feels
reminds
like
me of
that
every single time I talk to Greg.
What? That's messed up. That makes me
You're
so
you're
sad
doing
if
better.
that
You're
was
doing
actually
better,
true.
Greg. You're doing
Greg,
so
you
much
tell me
better.
that my dreams are gonna fail and that I should just give up.
This is not what I've said. But we've learned that Noella says things that are.
Truthful.
It's called
Hey, guys.
paraphrasing, Greg.
I'm
It's
a
called-
pathological liar. Like and subscribe.
Hey, Kaylee. Yeah. If there's any water bottles, will you go grab them for us? Mine's empty. Malik's is almost empty.
Could you get me
So-
a Kirkland signature granola bar?
The one that's 2 minutes away.
Kaylee,
2
you're
seconds away
amazing.
from you?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I love you.
Noella, did you have a first question?
I
or
have
should we use
Killian's
Killian's?
question. Ow! I have Killian's questions.
Set it up.
And shows violence. Okay.
Okay.
So.
Killian says.
Killian is one of the future greats, just in case you guys don't know.
Oh,
He's a real one.
Killian hates
Rock, paper,
me.
scissors, quick!
What?
You gotta rock, paper, scissors with Malik, so who gets the
Oh,
one?
because there's no. Give it to him. He's a guest.
No, then it's not fair.
Whoa.
Rochambeau?
Yeah, Rochambeau. One of my favorite
Aw,
words.
best friends.
Okay. Thank you, Dakota. So, what's Killian's first question? Actually, first. So I said you were a renowned author. I believe one of the novels is Shadowrun Imposter. Yeah. Main character's Nero, and I think the synopsis I read was he has to play a corpo, and I don't know what that is.
So the story follows a Shadowrunning team. Nero is a twin, and his team doesn't know that he's a twin, but they find out he's a twin. Doesn't go well.
Does he have an evil twin?
Whoa.
Kinda.
Like
Evil.
in
He's just-
season 4 of Community?
So evil.
So he has to switch places with the twin, and things don't go at all the way he wants.
Dude, they're so melted.
Be grateful.
I'm grateful.
ingrate. You ingrate.
I'm just
Okay,
making
I'm so
I'm just
sorry. This
making
is-
I'm just
I
making
tried.
observations.
I
Stop.
got snacks from Costco, and I left them in the van, and it was 70 degrees on Friday.
You live in
and-
Arizona.
You drive a
Come on,
I
van?
know, but
Come on.
Yeah, he drives a white van.
no.
Oh.
It's a Sienna.
It's
No.
silver?
We were learning
Okay,
about.
then it's a little better.
Every
evil
time I've seen
twins.
it, it's been white.
Yes. So the idea for the series in my head, because now it's a series, it wasn't, but now it is, was for each book to focus on a different character on the team. So the first one was Nero and Engie, and Engie is this weird punk rock, really, really old elf, and Nero is this Italian magic user with a really jacked up past. And so the other two characters were sort of like secondary to the story, but the new one is called Lethal Knowledge, and it focuses on Grimfox, who is a troll from around here, from around these parts. And it's kind of told from his voice, which is very different because he's ex-military, as opposed to these guys who grew up in the shadows.
And Shadowrun is a bit unique in the sense that it is a tabletop role-playing game that is set kind of on Earth, which is
Oh, yeah.
an unusual, which isn't as common, right? So if I'm remembering correctly, it's like basically 2080 or like 80 to 100 years from now, or
I think
was
we're
that
in
just first
2081. right
Okay,
now,
yeah.
wanna
I
say.
thought you were going to say 2008 and we were going to get to talk about the financial crisis.
We
And
actually
me
mirror
being 1 year
could.
our
old.
I
real
guess,
history up
if you
until a certain
want to.
point, and then like there's this awakening and magic shows up.
Yeah. And then we talk about us being toddlers.
Mm-hmm.
And
Good.
2008.
I was 2 years old during the housing
I was
crisis
1
in
year old
2008.
during
I was in
Crisis.
the construction industry when it tanked by 30%. So yeah, that was fun.
old.
Whoa. I know, right? Thank you so much. Yeah, it definitely makes you. Half the time I'm in a room with people 15 years older than me, and or 20, and half the time I'm in a room 20 years younger than me, and it just is how it
The
goes.
default for anybody in college is to call you old.
I know. It just works.
One
It's
day you'll be
okay,
old
you're-
and they'll be looking down on you.
You're younger than my dad.
They call me old, and then I go to our division meeting, and sometimes Kazia will call me the baby of the department. It's been a few years though, but still, that's
You're not old enough to be my dad, so that's okay.
I am.
Then you're. Wait, I can call
Both of
you
us
old.
are at a 0 mark
Exactly.
for our age this year, so that's good. Okay, so Shadowrun is a
Everybody
unique
else knows.
setting, so what's your experience with tabletop gaming aside like you
Oh,
publish?
gosh.
What's the
So
where did it
I
start?
started playing role-playing games when I was young. I want to say like 8 or 9, but I'm not sure that's real. It was as far back as I can remember, that's for sure.
Whoa.
And I started with D&D because everybody starts with D&D, and a lot of it was homegrown. I think most of what we did was homegrown. We did a little bit of Forgotten Realms, but most of what we did was homegrown stuff, and it became a thing of my friend group to play different games, and each of us built a campaign for that game. So that's kind of how I got into like real writing with fantasy and science fiction, because you build these campaigns, next thing you know, you're like, no, I have stories to tell about
Yeah.
this world.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I wanted to start streaming. I thought the players here, some of our students were doing such a good job with the characters, and it was making for such an interesting, unique story. I'm like, I feel like we got to document this, even if it's in really crappy 720 pixel. You know, like I've got $15 cameras. One of them I've had since like 2004.
It has to be immortalized in some way.
So when I do upgrade, we will do some sort of death ceremony, or
That's 21-year-old tech, my man.
and it's still like, you know what? I have, that's as old as my car. I have 2 cars that are.
Oliver! Our favorite.
She's like, I'm here to play Magic. I'm not even sitting down. Or they're like that. Sorry. But I can't try and...
best
okay,
friends.
I will expand.
You better give Oliver a good grade. I'll come for you.
I don't even know that was good.
It's always so belligerent, like, you better. Anyways,
Whoa.
thank you, Oliver. Cool.
Oliver! What were you listening to?
So, yeah.
Let's see.
Oh,
I have to
okay.
remember. There's a playlist.
Or you're lying to us.
Wow.
Sorts of things.
Yeah, maybe you were listening to something really, really different than that. I wasn't gonna say cooler than that.
Okay, so, okay, so we were
What about
talking
Lego ASMR?
Malik's background with tabletop gaming.
Lego Batman.
So, much like all of
ASMR.
you,
Sorry, we're off
I
topic.
think
Yeah.
much like all of you, he said he started with D&D, enjoyed the homebrew aspect,
And then moved on to
got-
better things.
Yeah. Noella really likes Starfinder, and she hates D&D now.
I don't hate D&D.
Well,
I
you've
just
said that
definitely
before.
prefer. I don't hate anything. I don't
I'd
hate
like that
anything
you've
or
come
anybody.
around to a
Fun
neutral-
fact, I've never played Pathfinder or Starfinder.
You should play Starfinder. Second edition just came out. And I had the second edition playtest, and it was better than first edition. So you should try second edition and tell me if it's better.
I'd be curious about the comparison between Shadowrun versus Cyberpunk.
Or you could come
versus,
back in and play
Starfinder.
D&D with us, or Starfinder with us.
Always.
Yeah, I don't like Pathfinder. Pathfinder is my least favorite. I could say that I hate Pathfinder. It's needlessly complicated.
People said that about Shadowrun, but it's not true.
It kind of depends on who's
I think
running it
it's
too. Like,
I think it's true for every person. It
To
depends
be
how.
fair,
No, no, I'm kidding.
I think
To
it
be
depends how
fair-
smart you are.
I'm kidding.
I had a Pathfinder first edition playtest book that I got for like $10.
Oliver, I'm
So
consuming Jacob.
that might be why it was complicated.
I know. I
yeah,
turned him
I'm
into a
listening, I'm
Coke,
just
a Diet
giving
Coke.
props.
I'm done.
Okay.
And now he's being digested.
All right.
Wow, attitude.
Etherscope. Okay, so where did it develop from there? So you
Let's
did homebrewing,
see.
you started doing
Homebrewing.
creative writing.
Wrote, so a lot of writers said that they start with fan fiction. That's probably true for me too, because
Which I feel like for some reason I've noticed that
rub your mic.
this group tends to be a little
Don't rub your
spicier
mic.
fan
Crazy.
fiction.
No,
it didn't.
So,
not at all.
What?
So-
No.
Uh,
Who said that?
myself and a handful of other writers wrote on something called the Dump Shop Forums, which is like it's a simple like web page basically. And a few of us published stories and had our own little sites on there. And from there, a lot of us got picked up to be writers for the role playing game. One of them is like the premier novelist for the role playing line right now, Russell Zimmerman. My boy Zim.
I'm like, what am I seeing? Okay, what-
It went around and went
Yeah, I
like in a
was like,
circle.
dude,
No, it's on. Quick, hit the rag. It's on there. There's a bug on there.
It's just, what is that, like a
Hit it.
moth?
It's probably just a mayfly. Its life's pretty short anyway.
moth?
But
I don't
Kill
know.
it.
Moths can be
Shorten
small.
it
I'm not sure
farther.
if you create writing classes like this, but this is pretty
It's laying
standard
eggs on
conversation
it.
around around our. Okay. So this
No.
is,
Yes, it is.
like, I thought
How
I
would it
was
even
the
get
only
pregnant?
squirrel
There's no
in the
male
room, but
mayflies
it's like
in
an
here.
entire room of
How do you
them.
know
Makes it
that?
fun.
Because I could feel their
nature of the
presence.
You could feel
Okay.
any male's
So you're talking about fan
presence.
fiction.
Yeah, why'd you point at me? I could have pointed at you too.
So you and friends wrote fan fiction based on another story, and that was
Oh,
your.
based on the
creative-
world, we just created characters and told stories about the world. Created some
Self-insert fan
role-playing
fiction.
stuff. for the world.
YN.
Yeah,
Oh, why?
there were.
Do you do X reader?
Slow down. So we out developed ideas about the world and built up.
Let's not finish reading Hogwarts Legacy X reader fanfiction.
Let him finish.
Malik is technically our guest.
Yeah.
He took time. Let's make sure we hear from him before we talk about
This is what happens when you're a chill person. This is what happens when you're a chill person.
Nonsense.
Noella takes advantage of you.
That's true. Okay. Phrasing. Okay, so Malik, continue your story before I don't even remember.
Before
so
Oliver
fan
says
fiction,
something
you were
crazy
introducing yourself
again.
to Stories.
Submitted some work to the company, eventually got picked up, and I've been doing it for a long, long time.
So what was it like to that? So how has submitting work changed from the first time you did it to now? Like as far as
Oh, they never
trying
read
to
it.
publish.
They never read it,
Okay.
ever. It's so funny because once
in a
I've been
safe
working
right
there
now.
for a while, I asked them about it, they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, I never read that.
So the imaginary, the like lost in the slush pile thing is a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Okay.
Eventually, there was a guy who I've been sort of communicating with called, his name is Steve Kenson, and he brought me on for a play test and kind of just worked my way through the system from there. So step by step, it takes a lot of effort knocking on doors for people to actually notice you exist for the most part.
A lot of hoops to jump
A
through.
lot of hoops to jump through.
Have you explored the realm of self-publishing and tabletop gaming and that sort of thing?
No, what I do want to do though, and you know, Jeff Bezos is listening somewhere, but I do
He always is.
want to publish a fantasy series through Amazon.
Mm.
Because I feel like Amazon's good for certain things, and self-publishing is one of them. A lot of self-published artists disagree with me, openly. And I feel where they're coming from, but you get some lit RPG stuff that just blows up.
Mm.
And I feel like that's a good forum for that.
I have a thought on that. So I know a lot of like content creators, especially who self-publish on
I like that
Amazon.
too. But I know what you mean. Yeah. Call them writers.
Writers. Well, I'm saying content creators because they started with a YouTube channel, and then they wrote a book and self-published it on Amazon, and then marketed it on YouTube. But it works if you know how to. From my experience and from seeing it, I've never done it, so yeah. But
It's difficult.
you have to know how. You have to make sure people know it's there, because it gets lost in Amazon. So I think that's why a lot of people don't like it, because if you have a publisher, they'll get it out places. But depending on how good your publisher is.
The idea with having a regular publisher, a traditional publisher, is that they would do a lot of the marketing and getting your product, creative product, wherever it would be best received, right? And so
Technically, yes. So they want to sell your book because they want to make money. You get a certain amount up front, but they want to make money from your book on the long term. But there's also a schedule when it comes to an actual like regular publisher, and in that schedule, they only have so many things that they're going to put out
Yeah.
and have time to actually market effectively. So,
Again, with the lost in the
yeah.
lost in the file
It's a little
cabinet.
harder to get lost if you have a publisher. It's a little harder for them to lose you than it is for if you're like on your own on Amazon, and they're like 10,000 books under the one little subheader you're trying to get on.
Yeah. A lot of people do it through TikTok Shop these days. They do a video. This is my
That'd be
book.
a
This is
new-
what it's about. Here's
Yeah.
the link to
that'd
it.
be a newer form of marketing to see, and I
Yeah.
don't know what the trend is on that.
Kickstarter's another one. Kickstarter's another one.
That's
And
true.
it's all about who you know in your connections. Even
Sorry.
I think Brandon Sanderson released a book over Kickstarter.
Oh, he-
a
Yeah.
lot of
He
money.
broke
Yeah.
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, everyone else was struggling with their mental health during COVID. I did too, but I wrote 5 novels.
Yeah.
In addition to my
accidentally.
normal contract. Whoops. That's,
Management.
he basically was able to use his Kickstarter to start a publishing company, is what he did.
Yeah.
But it's amazing, and
The-
he does
yeah.
right. I really enjoy his
The
work.
risky
And
thing
that's
with
about
doing it.
having a fan base. And if you have that fan base, they'll put the money up.
Yeah, they will.
Here, I
The
don't know if
risky
you guys
thing
wanna
about
look
TikTok
in
though
these
is that it's
materials
completely
too.
random
Oh,
who it
but you
goes
didn't get to
to.
look
yeah.
at this
It's
yet.
completely random who it gets to.
There's an algorithm involved, and I don't know how to work the algorithm. I don't know.
Apparently, they just all
Take everything.
Done.
Okay, so what would you say has been what's the most vivid memory of tabletop role playing publication for you? Like, what was one of the big moments where you're like where you saw the fruit of your work kind of really come out?
So, every few years, Shadowrun releases a new edition. We were on Shadowrun 6. Let's say there forever, folks. Obviously, I'm not going to say this forever. We know. What's the D&D on? 47? Just kidding. Long story short, the game book opens with this entire history of the world. And this tells you all about who you are in the world, how to play the game, the history, everything. And they told me to write it, and I was all. And I did. It was one of those moments where I felt like, okay, the first time people play this game, the first words they're going to see are mine. And the first like 10,000 words they're going to see are mine. And it felt really good to have that opportunity. So that was like my sort of.
I'm
here now.
introducing them to the narrative of this world.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. That's cool.
Yep, that was a good moment for me.
And then what was it like to shift from like there's writing that you know is meant to be like part of, you know, framing the world in a gaming standpoint, and then writing a novel that's in the world. So what kind of practices are different when you're in those different mindsets?
Quite a few. So when I first started writing short stories, they were all for the world. They were always about moving some portion of the world along. And when I started writing novels for the world, it wasn't about that. It was just about telling stories that existed in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, I still don't know why, I ended up telling stories about parts of the world that people weren't talking about. So these guys they live in Amsterdam. Why Amsterdam? I want to go there. That's why.
Because
That's
what?
right. Yeah, I started there, goes to different places, and so this is like a very international hikes crew. They live in Africa in that book, and there's shenanigans.
Whoa, those are my favorites.
So that was kind of like
I have a quick question. It might not be very quick, but so even before you get to the publishing and the stuff like that, I have trouble personally with starting the book and then obviously finishing it, like a lot of people. How, as a published writer, how did you is it like a person-to-person thing? Some people can finish them, some people can't, or did you use certain tools to be able to finish your novels?
All right, good question. I talk more about this in my creative writing in 272 writing novel. In the fall, seats are available now. But what I always go back to is this quote about facing the desolation of writing 500 pages and realizing that, you know, all you can do is that one page at a time. You have to recognize that when you're going to start a novel, this is going to eat your life for a little while. But in a good way, hopefully, like if you really love it. Even in the class, I've noticed that some of my students will quit their novel like within the first 3 weeks because it's like, you've been writing this and you're like, oh, I don't want to tell a story. But others, what stops them is that they'll write the entire like idea of it out, and that's enough. They don't really have to write the story itself because they know
I
what
see.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They like completed the arc and they're like, well, I
In their
like that
head.
I have the steps.
Yep.
But the. Okay.
So for me, over the years, it's been the outline process. And like I said, it can go both ways. But for me, the outline helps me. The way I outline is kind of weird. So I'll write sort of like a paragraph for each chapter all the way through to the end. And I'll come back and
Fill it out.
fill it out.
Interesting.
And that way I know I can go into any chapter at any point on any day, and it will keep me going. So, but how I start that process is just having an idea that I think I really care enough about to invest in.
Is that paragraph like a synopsis of that chapter, or is it like?
Starts out as it, yeah.
Okay.
So you use that almost like as a starter or kindling for each writing session. You're like, I'm going to create a whole bunch of starters that happen to link together in these chapter forms, and you can kind of jump in.
Sort of. So like initially it'll start as that. So like there's a story that's on the back burner right now that is about Maricopa, or what happens to Maricopa in the future. And
Like the county, the district, the college,
the city.
the city of
There's a
Maricopa.
city.
Oh,
I used to
okay.
live there.
Okay.
Whoa.
Okay.
Yep.
In Shadowrun? Or no, separate?
It's- We'll see where it is. We talked about this.
Okay.
man.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah, you're right.
No, I'm kidding.
Sorry. Yeah.
So
Ooh, secrets.
we
All right, then keep
for
your
for
secret.
what
Keep it secret, keep it safe.
that process is I had an idea for a character, and I was driving by. Has anybody here been to Maricopa?
No,
Probably at
only
some
once,
point.
I think.
I used to live in Maricopa.
You know.
Whoa.
So as you're driving on this lifeless road from Maricopa to not Maricopa, the rest of
What
the
are you
universe,
doing?
you see that there's on the side of the road
Here, I can.
there is this like a dig site, and I still don't know what they're digging there, but
Secrets.
maybe like rocks or, I don't know,
That's
Me
usually
when
what
I'm
people
digging
dig.
secrets.
kicking rocks down there.
Maybe
But
they're
I thought
digging
to myself,
it.
what would be interesting would be if there was something that was being secretly mined and it was being done by a corporation and you have
Aliens.
some kids who are, being kids and sneak in. What happens next?
I never
cool.
read Holes, but I imagine that's what happened in that book.
No, but
It seems like something a book
Definitely not.
Exactly.
Wouldn't it just be like one hole?
Or maybe it's about worms.
I
I'm
like
talking about
Holes could be about worms.
It's a different one.
Oh.
I don't, Tremors?
Tremors.
Tremors.
6, 7, 8,
I love
can't remember how high.
Tremors.
Holes is where they
But I
find
remember watching
a treasure chest.
Tremors
while
is
they're
so
digging
interesting.
holes.
Have you seen the photographer on school? The photographer that works here?
1995?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He looks exactly like Kevin Bacon. And his name is Kevin. Isn't that insane?
Kevin Ham.
I told you.
I think it's Kevin
told you.
Bacon.
Kevin Sausage.
Flippable clips. Like,
Oh,
she's
hello.
good for sound bites. Is
that why she's here?
I mean,
That's all I'm good for, Greg.
I didn't say that's all you're
Is
good
his
for.
name
I
Kevin
said she
Sausage?
sometimes
Her name
says
is
things that aren't true, but she says things that are good sound bites, like entertaining sound bites, no matter what. And you're here because you wanted to be, not because anyone forced you to be.
I'm here because I don't have a job anymore. Oh, guess what, Greg? I don't have a job anymore.
That was okay. We'll talk about this more later.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway.
I do like that
Let's bring it back,
that
guys.
tool that you use because when I start writing like a story, because like at 2 a.m. I'll be like, oh, that's a good story idea, and I run over to my computer and I start trying to write it down. But
By the way, use your phone. I just say it.
Yes, I have it in my notes app. I have just.
I
Okay.
used to, but now I just do voice to text. So I can just text it to my computer later on.
that makes sense.
Oh, I should
But-
type it.
While I'm writing it, I'm like, oh, and this can happen at the climax of the book, and this can happen at that, and then I'm like so eager to do that, but then I'm like, but I haven't written
to
the
get
rest
there.
of the thing yet.
Yeah. You have a
So
moment, but you don't have a story. And that's the hard part. It's like you have to try to rewind to that.
yeah, and I keep wanting to go and write a later part of the book while I still have the idea, but I haven't written any of the other books, so I like the idea of jumping
Which is
around.
okay.
Yeah, I feel like you still can, at least to get the idea there so you don't lose it. But just with the knowledge of there's a lot that could possibly change
Yeah.
as you figure out the story.
And I'm a big lover of foreshadowing, like subtle foreshadowing that you would never guess is foreshadowing, and then later in the book you're like, so I love that, but yeah, I feel like that would be a good tool.
What are you doing?
So I do appreciate that.
Oh, thanks. Sorry.
Anyway, that's my question. Ta-da.
I was watching Psych the other day. This is on topic, I promise.
Wonderful show.
And it's
I love
like,
that show.
It's
Just
like-
rewatched it, like the third or fourth time with my daughters, so they're at an age where it fits now.
like episode 3 or something. What's his name calls the other what's his name? Gus. The other what's his name is Gus. He's my favorite.
Sean
Sean
calls
and Gus.
Oh, Sean. Yeah, that's his name.
It's a wonderful show, right? Okay, we're not okay. You
Imposter.
Big fan. Big
I'm on
fan.
season 1. Calm down.
Okay, it is a wonderful show. Some of
Sean
us have
calls
seen it
Gus,
3 or 4
and
times.
he's like, "I have your cat," or "Your cat is sick," or something. And then like 2 episodes later, they get a cat.
That's the one where he's like being psychic with the cat. And
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. I love cats.
I love that episode, actually.
Yeah.
But
So
where
wait,
was the pineapple in that episode?
Right.
Did you catch it?
What?
Did you know there's a pineapple in every episode and you have to find it?
They
No,
started in that
I didn't-
it was
what?
something that was behind the scenes, like a fun set.
Oh.
Was it from the beginning,
The set
or did
diderners
it start
did it.
later in the
It was
first
Really
season?
close to the
Close, but it wasn't
beginning.
like
I know there's one where he
think
says,
it's-
"Should I cut this up for the road?" and he's
That.
holding a
It's
pineapple.
the one when he's in Gus's kitchen, which is like the only
Yeah.
time you actually see Gus's apartment, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah. So yeah, it's like episode 3.
And then in Psych, the movie where you get
There's
psych
a
friends-
movie?
There's a
There's
Christmas
6 seasons
movie.
and a movie?
There's a Christmas
They have a
movie.
musical.
3 movies, a musical, and the last time I checked, which has been like a year, they were hoping for a 4th movie, but they haven't been greenlit. But I don't know anything.
Dude,
recent about
I
6
want it.
seasons and a
Little
movie
Drop.
goes
They have
crazy.
a Christmas movie that's great.
Nicely
Sean
done.
and-
A great Christmas.
I don't know if that's Lord
Movie.
Architect. Okay, let's ask
But they haven't
Killian's.
been talking.
Oh, you want
let's ask
Killian's questions?
now.
Killian, shout out Killian.
Did he shave his
Killian-
beard?
It can really
Did
be
he-
like.
did he
keeps doing
There's a
that.
reason
He does
I
that
spend
like
like 6 to
often.
8
He
hours
grew it
of
back.
my life a
Yeah.
week in this
'Cause
place.
it grows
is
in, like,
because
2
this
points
is
up.
Dedication,
fun,
Owens.
right? It's so much fun.
Okay,
I
Killian's
have to
first
homeschool to make
question
sure I get
is.
time with my kids.
Greg, we're
What?
reading.
Sorry.
We're on topic now, and now you're off topic.
I'm
Sorry.
gonna preface this by saying that I've been told that when I read things out loud, it sounds like I'm reading
Do you
a
want me to
different
read it?
language.
Just add some melody.
What are some creative writing tips for writing content for tabletop role-playing games? In parentheses, adventures, plans for a session, etc. End parentheses.
Doesn't it sound like she's
That
reading
accounts
different
for-
languages?
Move your voice
player
up and down
input.
Just a little bit more. Add a little melody.
For example, how can we write adventures to not railroad or
See, now you're
otherwise
intentionally trying
exclude
to-
the players? I just can't read, Greg.
So I can answer that question because as a DM,
I didn't
GM,
understand
can
it as I
totally
was reading it,
answer
so.
that question. So if you're in a session with other role players, I can guarantee you they're not going to do what you want them to do. They're just never going to do it. Why? Sometimes they just do it just to screw with you. Like they just won't do it.
I do that.
But see,
Noella loves it. Noella loves it.
the key,
Yeah, every DM's favorite thing.
the key is to have something that the players need to accomplish, a goal, and have the reward for that goal be substantial enough that they're going to end up doing what it is. You have to understand they're never going to do it the way you want them to. They're going to find some sneaky way to do it, or they'll just walk in the front door and stab somebody. One of those things is going to happen.
Right? You create a really beautiful NPC. They're super nice, and like one player decides this is people, and it's like 5 seconds in, it's like,
No, it's not.
It's like he knows.
Sometimes my suspicions on somebody's like character are completely correct,
I just go, who hurt you?
and then I say everybody.
When I first started playing D&D, we had a concept we called the Fat Merchant. Now, the Fat Merchant is, if you ever watch any sort of
Like in Resident Evil,
not quite, but if you ever,
there's a fat merchant in that one.
if you ever watch any sort of like
What hero
whatever,
archetype does this
there's
fall under?
always going to be like some usually larger girthed merchant who is in a carriage going somewhere, has a couple of bodyguards. So I wasn't a thief. I was usually a fighter or a ranger or something.
Yeah.
And as a ranger, I had to like philosophically understand why I was still doing this. Long story short, we would always rob the Fat Merchant. Always. And why would we? Because we didn't have money. But there was a sword that was worth like 8,000 gold. And we're like, well, Fat Merchant got to have a fat 9, 10. Kill the merchant, get the gold. DM hated it. Every time. Why? Because one of the things that you do is you try to like scale the game to the characters, right? And
Yeah.
part of that is like them not having so much money. Because when you have more money, you can do more things. So the trick became you can't have your goal be about those things. You just have to have it something that sort of correlates to the abilities of the group is the goal, and the only way they can do it is by like actually doing the thing. Like if it's you have to get this item from this place, then it can't be, well, I can always just pay somebody else to do it for me, which has happened multiple times. But it has to be like, no, you can only do it because there's another group trying to get it before you or whatever. Some sort of ticking bomb, we like to call them, which forces you into action, and always just leaving it so open of how they get there that you have to work on the fly. It makes you a better writer and creator if you work on the fly, but if you script it out ahead of time, they're gonna be mad.
They never know their lines. That's
They
crazy.
never know their lines.
They weren't even at rehearsals in the
idea
bathroom or that morning. In the bathroom.
The idea of the Fat Merchant is an interesting one, though. Like, and we
Maybe
could
come for
talk. Maybe
prom.
we could talk a little bit about like designing different characters and representation, possibly in cultural representation or however we want to do it. Whatever this opens up, can of worms. But the idea of the Fat Merchant, like in my mind, is like I think Friar Tuck and Robin Hood or something. Is that right? Yeah. But it's like there's this opulence tied to like I have money, I have food, I have all the basic needs.
Yep.
I'm a bit slothful, so there's a like one I'm low threat, right? And I'm
That's
high I'm high value in the sense of like I obviously have more than I need. Like if you had a skinny merchant, you'd question, is he really good with a rapier? Is he like a swashbuckler? Or is it like he's a poor merchant and does he have 5 kids to feed or something, or whatever it is.
Especially.
Was that Total Recall? Sorry, never mind. Like there's that line's from somewhere. I got 5 kids to feed. I watched that when I was 8. We'll move on.
It's all things.
Moving on, Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's not how you pronounce his name. So the idea of how when you're designing characters, how do you lean into or away from or deal with representation in a game? Since a lot of tabletop role-playing games are sort of archetypes or typecast sometimes, or you have these tropes.
yeah.
How does that play out when you're writing a novel for one?
So I try to choose characters who aren't tropey, except I am being repeatedly told that the one female on this 4-person team is an absolute trope. So I'm trying to work around that a little bit,
Do you
away
have
from that.
another femme fatale?
She's
Everyone has a femme fatale in the team. Everyone does.
Her name is Shen, which is actually a boy's name, which kind of ties into like her backstory a little bit, but I haven't gone there yet.
Is she the badass woman of the group?
She is, but she's also the face of the group.
I have
She's,
no women in my group.
That's not
Is this
okay.
a spoiler on the existing
You're
novel or
canceled.
the upcoming?
Tattoos
Okay.
that run down the back of her neck that sort of change color based on her mood.
Okay.
Whoa.
Right?
It's like the
Sometimes I wish
giant
people
rock
had that
thing
so I
in
could
the
tell.
book that changes. It changes once every year, and it's like the mood of the floating island. What book is that? Spelljammer?
It can be any book, literally.
Spelljammer, in the setting, they have the
I don't know.
rock.
You've probably looked at those books better than I have. Honestly,
Okay.
At this point. Let's get started.
Can't believe this,
I
Greg.
haven't been doing my home. I bought all the books and then I've been
Greg,
running
you have to do
games
your
nonstop.
homework.
I haven't
Expose
really.
him.
I do it
You're
as much
gonna
as
get
I
a
can.
bad grade. You're not gonna pass.
Have you even read all of Strixhaven?
I've like cracked open that book.
I haven't
So
even
no.
heard of it.
I have no.
What I try to do,
Thank you.
I got you.
Let's bring it back, guys.
I try to make my characters as diverse as possible. Angie is a black elf from London. Nero's just Italian, white Italian male from Italy. Let's see, Shen is from China. And Grimfox is a Native American troll from, we call it the Pueblo Corporate Council in the Shadowrun world. So it's the PCC, it's a larger area that encompasses.
I have to make those words all together.
Community college? What? No.
PCC, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Assuming, let's say one day the tribes are like, nah, this is ours, man, come on. That's what happened. And it's very bad. But then they broke up and had their own little separate bands too, because they're still tribes.
So I guess one of the challenges, like this came up, I can't remember which session last week, if it was the advanced DMing one or the empathy session or something.
I was
But
at both of them. I'll let you know.
You were at all of them.
I was at everything.
She was sort of at some of them.
Friends.
Yeah, I was like 30 minutes late to one, and then I stayed for the first
you had
15 minutes
jobs.
of another.
Did you get fired because you brought them here?
No, it's
Okay,
because
good.
the girl that I drive to rock climbing, her sister learned how to drive, so now she doesn't have need for me anymore. I wish she would just have
Support
not
a
learned
family
to
just
drive.
ruined your career as a driver.
Can't believe
That's why I
this.
say she should have just said, "Elle,
There
you should
goes
have
my
learned how to drive
35 bucks
faster."
a week.
Playfully.
She should have just said,
They
"I got
wanted
here
to pay them
first."
in mac and cheese to run my social media.
You should
Yeah.
pay me in money now that
You
I
still-
don't have a job.
He doesn't have money.
Money you pay.
How many kids do you have? 3? He has 3
You
kids.
should give me a
Or
dime,
something like that.
a dime a day or something.
I don't even know. I don't know.
A dime a day.
I guessed a
Talk to my
number.
wife
Catch
about
up,
that.
bro.
I
Do you
am
actually
not-
have 3 kids? Did I guess that
Yes, I have
correctly?
3 daughters, and
Ow.
no, we're not trying for a boy. I love my daughters, and I'm thankful for them.
One of them goes here.
But anyways,
Really?
Mm-hmm.
one of them what?
One of them goes here, right?
Yeah. She's one of the.
Maybe I've met her and I don't even know
You
that
probably
she's
have,
here.
yeah.
We yapped.
Yeah.
We've yapped.
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
it
Maybe I've met her
I
and I
was
didn't even
going
know
to say,
she was
so
Greg.
there was a Okay, there was a
Let's bring
session
it back,
there,
guys.
Where
Did you
we
try to whistle?
started talking about, that was my mini beatbox.
Oh. Oh. Nice.
That's how that was my scratch, not my. Anyways.
Oh, now he's gonna beatbox. Oh no, we started.
Can you
this.
beatbox Salt and Pepper?
Don't.
Please.
Don't
push
start
it.
this. Don't start this. He's gonna do
I'm
it.
not.
He's gonna.
If I get to 450 subscribers.
I've got you.
I just subscribed
It's
right
scary.
now.
Okay, let's bring it back,
so,
guys.
I was trying
You're
to
one
start
to
a
talk.
question, like building on this. So in tabletop gaming, sometimes there's a challenge with when you're representing a type of character, but it is a fantasy world. So if you're playing, you're drawing in some cultural elements, but you're making an elf who kind of is pulling on a certain part of Asian culture, something like that. But in Shadowrun, it is in the world, and so I don't know if that makes it harder or easier to
You do have to do your
get that
research, right?
to kind of walk the line or step over it on
So-
representation.
In terms of that, we look at the races often as representative of where the person of that race came from, because it was spontaneous. It wasn't just like all the trolls or orcs were born in one area. It was just like you were living in Brooklyn and you ended up, you had a troll as a kid, that kind of thing. Or more spontaneous things would happen during a particular period of time. But the idea was that over time, certain races decided to become like their better selves, or whatever you want to call it. Like the elves became the elves of old. Some of them, two different sects did. But in general, it was, I really try hard, really try hard, not to ascribe certain racial characteristics to certain groups. Because when you do that, you're just reinforcing Tolkien's racism. I'm not doing it. Tolkien was a racist. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
I'm not doing it. And the problem with continuing to do that is you're continuing to push these stereotypes that make it difficult for portrayals in the future. So to give a more recent example, remember the uproar when there was a black elf in Lord of the Rings? Or, yeah,
In the Rings of Power?
Rings of Power.
Okay.
Oh yeah, him.
People snapped.
Did they?
Oh my God.
I found.
Why was there a black elf? Elves can't be black. Why can't elves be black? So I made sure
Really
my
cool
character was
too,
a
by the
black
way.
elf.
Like his
dope.
characters are
Yeah.
just awesome.
I loved Rings of Power. I don't think I finished a Lord of the Rings movie, or like The Hobbit or anything, but I finished Rings of Power. People are gonna come at me for that one, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna come at you in the comments.
Laura's
No.
been commenting on the different live streams of this. Yes, today she did like 4.
Well,
Anyway,
Yeah, I
always
did
has a
ones from
comment.
like 3 months ago.
she's catching up.
I had to do the daily questions.
We
Trust,
do
guys,
daily
I do
questions
the
at
daily
beginning of the Ethereal
questions.
campaign, and where it's like, what's your favorite superhero power? Or what's your favorite Pokemon?
Teleportation.
Yeah.
Me too.
I said mind control.
Not Pikachu.
Not Pikachu.
Diglett.
I was
I'm
gonna
just
say
kidding.
Diglett. I love Diglett. He's fun.
There was
Treat it.
one that I didn't know how to
I like
answer
Mimikyu.
because I didn't
Right
understand the
now?
context, so I just
Are we talking
didn't.
about like base Pokemon or like when they evolve?
Whatever you want.
Any.
Yeah.
As long as you can show me what they look like if I don't know what they are.
I'm gonna say right now I've been liking Charmander.
Yeah. I like Mimikyu. He's cute.
I like Mimikyu, but Mimikyu is like a mean SOB.
I don't know
He's
their
cute,
actual
though.
names
That's why I
because I
like
give
him.
them fun names. I'm biased towards Scyther though,
Those are my top.
for obvious
I-
I use
reasons.
Arrowheads in my deck.
Right.
Me too. I only have like one deck, but that's okay.
What's
No.
Snivy's evolutions? I like one of
Snivy,
them.
I know that
Spider-Man?
Superior is like the last one, or
Oh.
something like that.
I like the second one.
What?
I don't remember. It's like
Pokemon
Superior,
you
but
know?
like baby Superior.
Well,
That's kind of what it looks like.
The ones in the middle of the.
But what I'm saying is that it looks like a baby
Oh.
Superior.
Yeah.
Okay, Killian has a second question. Do you want me to
He
ask
does.
the second one?
He does. Did we
even answer the first one?
So the
Let's
first
bring it
question-
back, guys.
I'm
Let's
gonna
bring
read
it back.
it this time, just in case we.
No, I can read it
No,
better.
okay,
I
no,
can read it better. I
I'm-
promise. I promise I can read it like it's English.
I wasn't judging you. Sometimes having a different person read, different things get emphasized.
I just
But if
don't
you
know
wanna
how to read.
try
I
and
can do it.
like a person, as you say.
She
go
doesn't read it with any emphasis on
I
anything.
can read it like it's
ahead. I believe in
English.
you. I wasn't judging you.
I promise. I promise.
Greg hates you. He doesn't believe in you.
I never.
I know, right?
Oh, that was
Were you able to
that
communicate
sounds like
your
a skill
Pokemon
issue.
thing?
Yeah.
Okay, good. She's gonna try.
Okay, you ready? I'm gonna try reading like a person.
Okay, we're gonna try the question one more time.
Okay.
Make sure we didn't miss anything, because I may have.
Wait, you want me to read the first one or the second?
Yeah,
one?
let's go. Let's roll it back over the first one. Make sure we didn't miss anything, and then we'll do the second.
that
Just
one's
stop at the
worse. Okay.
first question mark.
What are some? Hang on. What are some creative writing tips for writing content for tabletop role-playing games that accounts for player input?
Okay. So
It's the openness question.
I had to
we did
speed run that.
Openness, options, and whenever you're in a situation where you are sort of like worried with what the characters will do, bring in NPCs, because nothing is more fun than making characters engage with people who are nothing like them, and putting them in a position where there are consequences for their actions, because it makes them actually roleplay their character effectively.
Yeah. When I realized that my group wanted to kill goblins because they didn't matter and like give them over to Baba Yaga, I'm not judging you. It's part of this. Like you can go watch my Thursday campaign. I've picked on them a little bit.
I
but,
don't
like,
watch those ones because you guys
but
don't do daily
the-
questions.
they were definitely they weren't having any moral quandary about helping Baba Yaga. And so what I did is I made it possible for them to interact with truly like a nursery of goblin kids.
Oh wow!
And so Dakota's the player who kind of, so it started switching, I think, about that time, because one of the nursemaids was like, I even had like sing a sleep song. What is it called?
A lullaby, a sleep song.
Look, there's a lot of words.
You're a
in this
father,
brain.
Greg.
Yeah, and I spent 10
Greg
or 20
doesn't
minutes
sing the
every night.
lullabies. He sings Pat Benatar.
No.
Pat
Ask my daughters, well, actually, they may not remember. For the first 2 years of their life, all of them got a 10 to 20 minute lullaby, almost every night.
It was a whole musical number?
It was 3 or 4 songs.
Oh my
Three or
god! My parents let me cry myself to sleep.
I did the same thing.
Uh-huh.
There's a process.
My
but we won't
parents-
talk
And
about
that
parents.
explains
Well,
how
really,
Greg's
organization
children turned
usually
out
wraps you
versus
up
how
in
we
So-
turned out.
Well,
So-
my parents used to tell me stories about characters in a fantasy world that were based on us, and I was Beauty Blue Eyes, and my sister was Beauty Brown Eyes, and my
That's
brother
fine.
was JT the Troll,
I didn't get bedtime
That sounds
My
stories.
dad just runs
Standard.
novels.
and my dad was it was King Beauty Beard.
King
My
Beauty
mom
Beard.
used to beat me until I stopped crying and passed out.
Oh,
No, that's fine.
Bummer. Way to bring down the vibe.
There were times where we had babysitters who used switch.
like, how does someone say
How do we
that?
move on? How do we move on from this?
Okay, second half of the question.
We haven't even answered the first one.
Like, because Malik shared, like, it's good to get them into situations where their actions have consequences.
Yeah.
And if people are in murder hobo mode or whatever it is,
Which
no
is
judgment.
a D&D thing.
It's
Yeah.
That's
That's my
so, especially
aesthetic.
for new
I have
players,
a Pinterest
trying
board.
to help them realize like feel the consequence of the action is meaningful. So like if they're thinking like we wipe out the whole town or we let Baba Yaga do this thing, it's easy when it's like disassociated. But when you put in the very vulnerable of that society, and it doesn't have to be kids, it could be an elderly grandma or whatever it is.
Nah, she's getting got, man. It's not the same effect.
She's lived a long life.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's experienced her
The
life.
rationalization's easier.
A lot easier.
You can rationalize anything.
That's true. But so
What?
it was.
Oh.
There was a lullaby about being wise and running from Baba Yaga and stuff that was sung during the scene where there's like this nurturing moment. And so yeah.
Dude, you
I'm
can't
sorry,
play with
Dakota.
that.
But it was also really great character building, right?
Greg's gonna
Right?
get mad at you.
Okay.
Do you want my
anyways,
keys?
but
Yeah, I want your
So
keys.
making sure the stakes feel
Give me your keys.
Feel
real and not just logical.
And also making the reward relevant
Yeah.
to
Thank you.
the player.
Yep.
Because if you don't, then what's the point of them doing it?
Yeah.
And
It does. It literally does.
Always magical.
You need to take this
items.
straw off of here.
Either
Why?
if I was role playing
It
it,
is
or if I was
vile.
GMing it, it was
Just don't
always.
smell it.
we
I
want
feel like
more
I can
stuff.
smell it from here.
Because I had like a little bunch of murder hobo tankies. I just wanted to get all the best stuff.
I have a hard time. Like, how do you choose what's magic items? Like, I try and cater them to people, but I end up feeling like I don't do a good job planning that. Do you have thoughts on this?
Not on that, but I
Oh.
thought.
Hold your thoughts
Well-
until someone has thoughts about your thoughts.
Whoa. Okay. No, share. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
So how I
fine, fine.
How I kind of took the question is like, I actually have this question for myself. I want to write my campaign where it's pretty much the characters that are my players running the story.
Yeah.
So it's completely open-ended to what they choose to where the story, what's in the story. I don't
Okay.
want to.
But
How would you?
what's going on in the world? Because
Okay.
because you always have the world story. There's always stuff happening outside of the characters' lives.
Yeah.
And that's the world story. So you have to design that story in your head. So like this prince is seeking power and he needs to make sure his sister doesn't marry X, Y, or Z. Whatever it is, you have that larger world story that you're building, and that's always happening in the background. And so whatever your players do sort of either feeds into that world story or is impacted by that world story in some way. And that might get them involved in the larger world story, or they might not. They might just
So like
stay in murder hobos.
to prepare for the story. Sorry, we'll get to you. To like prepare for the story, I could like write like a news clipping or something like that
Yeah.
instead of trying to write what they're gonna go through.
And what I always love to do is include some small bit of it in their backstory, like they witnessed X, Y, or Z, or they
Okay.
come from this region where this happened, and that sort of infects them in a way to be part of that larger world story eventually, when they're ready.
Okay.
It's an interesting word choice.
Okay, Noella.
Okay, in Howl's Moving Castle, hang on, they've got like, this is so pertinent actually. They've got the main storyline with like Sophie and Howl, but then there's Turnip Head who's the prince,
Yeah,
and
and
they
they-
Oh,
don't
yeah.
even know until the
I was
end.
literally thinking about
Yeah.
They touch on it zero.
Yeah.
background characters talking about mentioning, oh, did you hear about the prince?
Yeah.
Something on your
And
eyelash.
it's like,
Nice.
And then that's like the bigger story that's happening at the same time, and they don't directly interact with it, but they still impact.
yeah.
But they
And
still
it's,
wrote
like,
what was
so out of the
happening
way
to that
like,
character. Yeah.
there. Like it's not like a second you blink and you miss it sort of thing, but it's still out of the way where it's not like in your face.
Yeah.
I like the idea, so having things larger in the world, this is also a great, like, in-game planning for, like, inserting the bigger picture into the world can be really great for insight or perception checks that are in random places. So, like, if you get high enough or if you get low enough, you're distracted by Town Crier, or who happens to be shouting this thing about the larger world context.
Yep.
And so working it into the story into a check like that, and you can even, if you're setting up a game book, it can be like, it could be something that, like, if they happen to roll 0 to 1, 0 to 5, or 1 to 5 or whatever in this tavern, they hear about this little snippet. Or that's the first, sometimes I'll do like scaled
That's a good idea.
checks. So it's like, no matter what, if they get a 5 or below, they always get that piece of bigger world knowledge because the drunk is just shouting it, I don't like the queen, she should be murdered, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
No matter what, they hear that. And if they get higher, then they get the thing they actually are looking at or looking
I like
for.
the idea that reminds me of something that I could implement where I like the idea that instead of a pass or fail check, it's a what you get in that tavern check.
Yeah.
So even if they're looking for anything, it could just, oh, you got a 20, well, you notice the sermon outside. That might be a little bit harder
Yeah.
to notice, but it's
Yeah.
not necessarily like pass or fail. It's like what you get.
Yeah, I like scaling it up, and like sometimes they'll get more narrative the higher the roll. Like,
Yeah.
and if you've got like
So
you
yours
have
is
the
a little
parties
bit more
where it's
pass or
like,
fail.
well, you can make a perception check. Everybody makes a perception check, right? And so then what I usually do is I'll start with the lowest scoring player, and they'll get the basic, and then the advanced player. So it's like this steady, slow reveal as the scores get higher. So I'll do that to try and work it
It
into
all
a
adds
game.
in.
Yeah.
I
So think about it this way, like when we were just talking about Lord of the Rings, we talked about Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
all those world stories are really huge, but what if you were running a campaign in that world? It's not like you're gonna be
the main
the
character.
main character. You're not gonna be one of the hobbits on a journey. So what's your story? There's a lot going on there that isn't just the story that we all know and love. There's other stuff that happen, and that's
You should write a
So you're gonna
Hobbit
be
one
build a
shot.
whole-
They're taking
build
the
a
hobbits to
mule,
Isengard.
horse, donkey, pony. Build a pony from Bree in The Hobbit or in the Lord of the Rings.
Okay,
And
yeah.
like it's like if you're running a game and you never make it to the other side of the mountains, past Rivendell, you're over in the Bree side of the world. Well, how are they being affected
Right.
by this this other thing happening. It's like, did the weather change because the smoke is getting heavier? Are you dropping them in after Sauron's tower has fallen and he's ran away with his helper? Is it Grim Tongue? Oh, I can't remember. That other dude, right? But yeah, so it's like that's a really fun way to think about it, and that's part of the fun of exploring the area that hasn't, like fan fiction style, the area that hasn't been talked about. Yeah.
Because then you can like make up your own little corner of that.
And you're really kind of extrapolating the other stories.
I have maybe something a little off topic, but I thought of it, and so I'm saying it. Actually, as like, you've run games, right?
Yep.
And obviously you run games.
No, I'm not. Actually,
Oh no.
Sorry.
Oh
Go
no.
ahead. I'm just playing.
Where am I? What is happening?
What did you do with Greg?
What did you do with Greg?
What's tabletop gaming?
Where'd the Muppet go?
No. Okay. I was thinking actually that what if, so you know how when you roll perception check and somebody rolls really high, now the whole table has rolled essentially that perception check. So I'm like, what if I like had everyone's like DMs open or something, and then depending on their role, I give them more information, but just to them.
So back in
And
the
then
day,
they
I
can
used
choose
just
to
write
share their
notes.
information.
Yeah.
And I noted that a lot of players don't. They just
Yeah.
don't. They just don't.
I think I've seen that happen before.
I kind of want to do that because
if I was in a group, or like I've seen like it like on YouTube, but like I've seen like people sometimes just send a text be like, you know this thing. Those are usually more for like the really like story, like narrative kind of stuff, and not just general.
Yeah, because I'm like, I noticed while playing, I'm like, I rolled like a 1 in perception, but somebody else rolled a, now I know that, and then I unconsciously play to that.
Don't make it.
What?
Is this a secret?
Do I get one?
What?
Whoa.
One of us is not gonna get. Oh, wait, that one's blank. Oliver, we didn't get one.
So I'm just modeling like how this is
Yeah.
how I do like old school.
That's how
right?
you do it?
You can
If you
use
don't
an
want
index
to
card,
hear-
but I have these like I always have a stack of these somewhere in the
Okay,
room.
that's
So
great.
yeah, so I laminated cards, dry or wet erase. Wet erase if you want it, you can prep ahead of time. But if you need something in the moment, and it's also really great for table management if you're talking too much. I've used that more when I've had the DMs come to to the mythology class. I went and I wrote like ask more questions, and I held it up next to them and then walked away. Or if the players who weren't used to it, like I was trying to coach them and I'm like, how does your character respond to the music? And I've like held that up. Like that was me like as the professor in that room in that moment, like facilitating. But you can do the same thing. I also lost the count.
I remember
So
that.
I want everyone playing blindly to their own perception of what's going on in this world.
That's part of roleplay. You
Yeah.
don't really know what
Because like if this was
20-year-old
actually like happening, everybody would just assume what they know is right and then go and do that, and then they wouldn't think to share with other people unless they want to.
I'll
of
give
course.
it to you.
No, I'm gonna make one for Oliver. No.
Here, you can have it.
Well,
Take it.
It's part of it.
I'm telling you
That's true.
what
It's gonna
Greg
happen.
secretly told me.
So I just made them up. But okay, so
What did you
imagine
get?
some plot reveal just because.
I
What was
it's not
yours?
for you.
Oh, fine.
I don't have to share that with you.
Okay, fine.
I got secret tunnel.
Right.
Secret tunnel.
So
What did you get?
one of the weird things about Shadowrun is that
Okay.
He's ignoring you.
Man, can't believe
is that
this.
there's like three. I don't want
Oh,
to call them 3 planes of existence, but there's 3 different sort of modes. So you have the Matrix, so you're in the computer, and you have astral space, and you have like regular world, right? So often you have different characters who are in these different modes. So the hard part, especially back in the day, we had to like pull people aside and really whisper to them, or go to another room and have that conversation because the other people could not see that stuff. And just like you're talking about with those checks, one way is to take them aside, but now you have these lovely things, so we can just.
It's like in the episode of Community where they're playing D&D, the one that's not banned, the episode that's not banned, they like split the group, maybe it's a different TV show, they split the group into 2 different rooms.
Is it Friends?
Because the group splits up halfway through. And so like the DM has to keep going between the rooms because it's 2 different stories that are happening and they can't know what the other half of the group is doing.
They split the party?
Yes,
Yeah.
they
What
split the
happened?
party, but they physically split the group also, so
That's
that one
great.
half
This
didn't
This
know
has
what was
been-
happening.
This has been really interesting because like there have been like I have done games where I split the party on purpose to say like because people were going to be on vacation and so we did like you 3 players here and it was a bigger group and you 2 or 3 players here and we had alternating week sessions because scheduling was a challenge. I've done that on purpose. And I know Critical Role does the thing where they will remove or like they'll tell someone to leave and come back,
Yeah.
which happens most on like their
Get
introductory
out.
episodes. But every now and then. But like I'm like part of that is like I just try and encourage people not to metagame, but
I think it just
like I'll call them out on like you don't know that. I'll say you don't know you can't respond to that.
But they know, they do know.
subconsciously I
it'll
always
affect
play
their
to what
actions.
the part I know as a person subconsciously accidentally, and I
I
noticed
just don't
that.
listen
Yeah, that she's good
to
at
what
that.
other people hear. So
Or
I just
any
get
part
this-
of the tabletop game.
Yeah.
Like the dialogue whatsoever.
I don't pay
also-
attention to what anyone else is like getting, what information they're getting. So I
Oliver, do you have anything you would like to
It
say?
can be very tough.
No, I don't.
You don't have any questions?
How would you feel about being asked to leave the room as a player
Yeah.
because your party split?
I feel like it depends on how it's done, but I
Oliver,
think
get out of here.
In roughly 10-minute cycles, like you and
I feel like
you
that'd be really interesting because it would add a lot of mystery because then I'd be like, I want to know what's going on.
Heck yeah.
And so like I would want
You have
so
the
it'd
space for
have
it.
like
Definitely
I'd be
space.
more invested in the story because
I feel like
I want to learn what's going on.
I feel like
Like, how much do you guys want to know?
if I got wait, hold it up to
Did
the
you
light
get
real
one?
fast. Hold it
Yeah, yeah.
up to the
Ooh,
light.
no, there was an M.
Laminated.
An N, I think.
And no, I think it was an M.
No!
Was it an M or an N though?
I feel like it'd be boring as the person outside just.
A W? See, I thought it was a W, but maybe I was seeing it upside down.
Haley, you'll have to wait just a moment.
I feel like as the person outside, I'd just be like,
I'm like, I have a hard enough problem with like, I mean, I don't know that I do, but I know some DMs have a hard enough time keeping players off their cell phones or playing other games and
Exactly.
like being distracted already
Yeah.
when it's like a micro moment for other players. And I feel like that, I don't know if that would make it better or worse. It feels like it would
maybe you
be
could
worse.
get canceling headphones.
That's kind of a fun idea.
For me personally, and this, I say the emphasis on the personally, I feel like having like a moment to just step out would be helpful for me to just kind of like what's I
Go to the
don't
bathroom?
word no well I guess that too, but like kind of like
Reset.
internalize the character where they're at, what's going on, kind of just process everything, and so then it's kind of like taking a little mini break, but then being able to step in with a
Yeah,
more
but
refreshed-
Oliver, not all players are as good
That's
as
why
you.
I said.
But you can't play to the lowest common denominator. You have to play to the
Yeah.
top.
Yeah.
I think.
I wouldn't say I'm a good
I-
player either. And
Are we out of time?
You're one of the
we're
better
still on. I was just
players.
gonna try and see if I was seeing what the rest of the question was.
There was also.
I think you and Killian, but that's just because
There was
you're the
also-
originals.
Yeah.
We also kind of have to at this point. 'Cause
Are you saying I'm a bad player?
No, I'm saying Oliver's better.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't
So
know how I feel about this.
you do a lot of the.
It's fine, you're just better than me.
You have run games.
kidding.
Your publications are the narrative portion of the game, right? Do you have? Because part of this question is about writing the adventures, not to railroad.
Yeah.
So when we're writing like
What?
or designing a book, like if we were going to develop a
Write
book.
those too.
Okay, so I didn't know.
Go
So
here.
how does the mindset
I'll
shift
fill you in.
between
call
trying to
you.
organize the books and modules
So
without
here's
railroad?
what I do. So you know that there's a goal, and the beauty of the game is that your players are hired to do X, Y, or Z. And there's a larger goal at play, but what you're creating as a writer are obstacles. How they get through those obstacles is up to them. So one adventure I wrote was they were hired to, so there was a meeting that was happening in this hotel in New York City, right in Times Square. and someone wanted to have the meeting recorded. They need to know what happened in the room.
You're back on
That's
top,
it.
baby.
Here are, so
Hell
if you were a
yeah.
GM, or we call it GM versus
Yeah,
GM, there's no
yeah,
dungeons.
I say both.
Yeah, so if you were a GM, one way to go about it would be like, here are all the paths that you can take to do X, Y, or Z. Or the other path is the one I take, which is, here's everything that's happening in that space and leading up to that for other people who are gonna be in the meeting. It's a lot more writing, but it gives them the facts and evidence they need to figure out their plan. So, because they're gonna do things ways that I've never thought of.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to, I don't know, just like blow a hole in the floor above quietly somehow with a cone of silence spell and just slip down. Who knows? So, how thick are the floors?
Play dead to
You
get
know,
out of a
those,
fight.
Yeah.
those kind of things. So those are the things that
Play
like,
dead for
the
4
obstacles
hours.
and the parameters of the situation, and then the
Gotta
players decide how to get it done.
See, and so that's always been, the first module I ran was Horde of the Dragon.
It did.
I've done a lot.
So one of the challenges I had with that is it felt like it took, if I wanted to be aware, and this is also a critique
you
with
hand
kids
me a
online, is
marker?
like if
I
you
can't
want
reach
to be aware of
markers.
what happens in like the fourth chapter or module or whatever
No,
they're
it
called.
doesn't work.
Sometimes
You're
there's
using your
stuff that
mitochondria?
happens in that plays into that, but there's not necessarily
Hang on, I have a
interconnectivity
marker.
between.
Right.
And so, like, I remember the
You're gonna miss
Goosebumps.
the nuance.
Yeah, and I remember the Goosebumps books growing up that were like choose your own adventure, and it'd say, if you choose this, jump to this page. And I'm like, I
Real.
feel like there need like internal referencing is absolutely necessary
Doesn't work.
sometimes.
We don't use that. but that
That's
does
not a
work.
marker.
And a lot of times we're making
Do you see a
these adventure
marker?
books, these larger adventure books.
No,
some of them
that's a
write,
pen.
Like, I might write 4 adventures, and then
No.
my buddy Olivier may write like 4 adventures,
Mhm.
and they're not connected.
That's not a
but
dry
we
erase
sometimes
marker.
share some of the same
There it
people and
is.
same locations.
Okay,
so
Dora.
it sort of makes it easier on the
Hola,
creation
soy
process, but
Dora.
also builds the story because you're seeing these things from different angles and in different lights.
So yeah, okay. So then, when you're saying like when you do it, it's almost, is it the Adventures of Sword Coast that kind of has locations and people and
Yep.
it's like building, so that kind of model where
That
it's building
model.
the surroundings.
That's the model.
And then is it,
Flip it over.
how do you incorporate like plot hooks that might be in different?
No,
or
that's
is that,
secret.
You said that's based on the things to get accomplished.
Yeah, there's some things to get accomplished, and it always
Just
ties
thought
back to
you
the
wanted
larger
to know.
story in some way. So like again, you have that world story of this is moving in this direction, but the smaller adventures are kind of just, I wouldn't say standalone, but they build into that in some smaller aspects. So it's like dominoes, in a sense. So
I
the
love
plot hooks are,
dominoes.
you know certain pieces of information if you did certain jobs. And that way you know, and then like there's always like a constant news feed going on somewhere of, this is what's happening, and you're like, it's not true. You know what I mean? Because I just did
Yeah.
this job, I know what's really going on. That's kind of how you interact.
So, hi. So, in my campaign that I want to run, so there's
Don't give
kind
away
of
too much because the players are listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Teachers watch.
listening.
No, the primary viewers of my channel are in the room right now.
yeah, that's true.
1, 2.
Ty might be watching. Hi, Ty.
That's true.
Dude,
What?
chill out.
Moving on.
No one's watching.
Oh.
I don't know who
Oh wow.
I didn't know I was gonna twist this. So.
like.
Like,
What were you going to say?
Anyways, Kaylee.
in the campaign I want to run,
Let's go.
Yeah, tell us how many people
So,
are viewing it right now.
going on my question, going on my thing about wanting the players to be basically the thing that makes the world turn.
Yes.
So in my thing, they're like a kind of like a freelancer organization, just odd job people that the government and then the bad guys both give quests to, and they can choose if they do a bad guy quest or a good guy quest.
Cool, cool.
Well, the government's not necessarily the good guy, but no one's a good guy. And so, based on what jobs they do with the government or the bad guys, changes where the bad guys and the government are in the story. So how would you like juggle that?
Build that matrix. So you know what the outcome of each adventure could be,
Yeah.
and you have to know how that shifts the scale.
Yeah. Because
So maybe even assign a
it's a
point
little
value.
different than just deciding what's going on in the world because it changes every time we have a session.
You could have an actual literal scale. I mean,
So
If you want to give me a scale, then I'll have it. But I'm not buying a scale
I don't
for
have
this.
a scale.
I'm not buying a
build
scale
that
for this.
matrix, like what I imagine is like
I get it. I
the
don't
kind of
know.
thing like where
Aw, I scared
if
them.
someone like I'm thinking, oh gosh, what's the lady for U.S. Agent versus Captain, the new one in Marvel, but whatever. The idea is that like a company might have
Super
like
Lady Woman.
your like the 80% of the business that pays for the expensive research and development portion of a business,
Yeah.
or the government might have all the 80% legit, 20% spy, and or whatever it is, whatever balance that is, or the military versus the spy versus the, and so depending on whatever matrix you're kind of setting up for, if that's good or evil or whatever you want to call it, or you know, covert versus overt, that you have the matrix built based on whatever criteria you choose as the outcomes for a particular module. And so then as the players either succeed or fail or show that their skills are more toward covert ops, then they would be presented with the next mission by someone who's in that division, right?
Department,
Yeah,
stuff
so
like that.
the spy is the one who approaches them if they really kind of leaned in that direction versus the soldier or the,
I wasn't even thinking that finite. I was thinking more of a spectrum.
Okay.
So like, I mentioned point value. What if you actually assign a point value to each mission, and let's say the world starts here,
Yeah.
right in the middle. And if they do a bad job and they are successful, it's a point. Good job, point. Bad job, point. So
Yeah.
it moves. The needle moves based on what the players are doing.
Yeah.
And then like you have points in that spectrum where, okay, you got they're +5 over here.
Yeah.
So this major evil event happened, changed the world in this way.
Yeah.
And then like, you know,
Which is interesting because they have, in the thing, they have a personal point value. It's called DRP, DRP, what's it called? Digitized reputation points. So every choice they make, I give them points in either direction. And that changes how people treat them based on the NPC's alliances. So I'll have a lot of point scales.
it's math.
well,
Yeah.
that's
Whole
where
thing
it's
is
like that, and you may find that the thing you're building, because it requires a lot more tracking, might fit. Like this system reminds me more of like a video game style system.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking like Sonic, where you get scored for how well you complete
Yep.
or how many coins you get or whatever.
In The
GTA,
Sims
where you get a
4.
certain star level based on
Yeah.
kind of craziness.
The
you end up
choices
doing.
you make.
In
yeah.
The Sims 4 Eco Lifestyle, you
Yeah.
have the
Go on,
like
Noella,
the
go
scale
off.
towards like eco-friendly and then industrial, and every like thing that you put in your house moves the scale towards industrial or eco-friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like that.
That's a good idea.
And
Okay.
with- that's just that's just a real specific.
There's a lot of video games with
Yeah,
this.
there's a lot of videos,
There's
yeah.
kind of we could kind of go on a little bit.
Remember we had the LEED certification because we were so eco-friendly, and then we tore out those toilets.
I just remember the plaques.
Yeah, they're still there.
Yeah, that's
They
funny.
have waterless toilets.
We
I feel like
took, we,
there's
took,
a lot of
we took out an eco-friendly toilet, but we left the plaque to say we were using eco-friendly toilets.
Oh,
Okay, so then since we're low on time, let's get to Killian's last question.
Killy, I got it.
He's been waiting for like
No, I
an
mean,
hour.
You want the second question or the second half of the first question?
the
Wait,
last
is he
one. I think
watching?
we've covered railroading.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was.
Could we benefit from using some game concepts such as intensity ramping in tabletop role-playing games?
yes.
I don't know what
Yeah, I was
intensity
gonna say,
ramping
we
is.
should
You want to
reframe it
explain?
how could we?
Yeah. How could we? Is a better
You
question.
should explain what intensity ramping is for
The
the
way I
people
like-
wating that don't know what it is.
Yeah, just
course.
for those watching.
Yeah, for
Those
for
2 million
Dakota.
viewers.
The way I like
Bye.
to term it is starting with a lot of simple encounters and just making it harder and long.
I can sense the people watching are understanding now. I can feel it. They get it now.
What do you think they understand?
I-
Could you reframe it?
I don't know. I think he did a pretty good job. I think I'll just leave it.
Well,
Okay.
Or would this and concept? He said. Killian asked concepts like intensity ramping. That would also be like. Would that be like the 3-phase boss fight, or name some others we might have?
Well, see, I don't know what you would do in that terms because when you're doing that, you're railroading, just by the very nature of it. The idea of that whole construct is to railroad the player, to test their abilities and to make them do things in a certain way. So,
Like the intensity ramping.
yeah.
So then talk us through that a little more.
So,
in what ways is that railroad? A
gosh,
little more.
in the video game class, we talk about this concept where if you're going to introduce any new sort of, not so much a device, but as a ability or skill
Mechanic?
mechanic,
Yeah,
you would
thank you.
do it 3 times. And you would do it 3 different times in order to show the player how to use it in 3 different settings. And when you're doing things like a boss fight in multiple phases, you're basically doing the same thing. You're saying, okay, you can beat this boss in this way, cool, but we want to make the game harder for you, so you have to beat the boss in another way, or it's going to happen faster, so you have to know those skills a little bit better. It just seems like a unnecessary thing to do.
So part of that, so I don't know if I would do it in the single, in a single track, but when I have, if I like when I have new players, part of me introducing them is kind of trying to help them focus on just a single part of the skills. Like we need to know what initiative tracking or rolling initiative is, or you
You're
know how
giving them a safe
combat.
space to learn
Yeah,
something.
so like trying
That's
to give
what I'm
them
talking about,
yeah. So but that doesn't necessarily mean it guides the narrative, I guess. And so
So-
that's what I'm trying to. So there's the maybe I'm
way
thinking of it
that,
different.
and I feel like a lot of GMs always do this, is you scale the narrative to the level of the players, which is in terms of intensity mapping. But I don't know that that makes sense if you want to make the players control their own destiny. So let's say I'm level 23 barbarian, and what would you give me so far as an enemy? You would probably give me something that's going to push my level higher. But why? I'm a level 23 barbarian. I'm going back to that village and I run the spot. That's
like-
me.
Yeah,
But other
it's like,
people-
does Baba Yaga, who's only CR 15, have? Is it like now there's 3 of them? Is it one of 3? Like if we're trying to balance encounters, it might be that to like because we're trying to give a fight that they feel like is equitable, but or like equivalent.
If we want
but-
them to have that fight,
Yeah.
and we want them to have control, they need to go looking for it. And in the design of the game itself, you have to have your rewards be at those locations where the fight is.
So you're saying like so part of that. So what I hear you saying is like it's totally okay if you have a high level for you to put your players in positions to be if they choose they want to go do this thing and it requires it doesn't have to always be a difficult skill check just because they're high level. It can be like, of course this would be easy for them. That's why you're doing this so well. It just
Yes.
means you have to you kind of have to have the road, the vision of that session have to be more than like the one encounter. It has to be, there has to be.
It has to be a bigger vision.
Yeah,
It has to be a bigger
okay.
vision.
Do you guys miss me?
Garrett, since he's new to the table.
Okay.
I would like to ask a question. So, one problem that because I see what you're saying, but I've had trouble balancing my encounters. And I've had players complain that my fights are too easy. And so how do you, because you want to make them fight what they want to fight, but also you got to make sure that the fight feels like a fight.
I don't think you do. Because if the fights are too easy, let's put it back in video game terms. If you are in a low level area, why would you stay there? Unless you wanted to stay having these easy encounters. The only reason you move up on the scale of difficulty is because there's something worthwhile for you. It's either the challenge or some sort of goal you have that's going to get you there. So I think what might be happening with your players is that they're facing encounters that you want to be balanced. Don't balance them. It's okay to kill your players. Honestly, I think
Or
that
let
if they're
them kill
doing
the entire village if they
or let
want.
them kill the village. If
With consequences.
the scale of the fight is not at the level of the player, that's not the fault of the GM. It's the player fighting at a level that isn't up to their task or way over theirs. So like, let's say you're going to walk up on a dragon as a fresh character. What would you do as a GM? Would you like,
I would establish warning signs. First, I would let them know this is going to be a powerful opponent.
oh, they know.
If
In the
they
name
can-
dragon, they know.
Well, some beginner players are like, when are we going to fight a dragon? And I'm like,
Right.
well, dragons are very difficult. You gotta. So I would establish some warning signs so that they know what they're coming in. If they already know what they're going in for, then I'll give them the dragon. If they want a dragon, they get a dragon.
And then what happens to the
And-
players?
They die.
Snacky time.
Or
Right.
or they're not worth the dragon's time. Or they're not the dragon's preferred snack, and so the
but
dragon.
that's just making them-
I'm just saying there's some options there. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't.
there are
It's like
options.
it's like someone like if you are. It's like if an 18-month-old ran up to me and I hate you. Right? It's possible that a level 1 can run up. I mean,
You're not gonna fight back.
Run that little guy.
depending on what else is going on, that could be inconsequential to my need to like cook everybody dinner or whatever, you know.
Right.
And so like if I'm thinking like drastic distance and level, it's like I may give that 18-month-old. There may be a moment just to help me focus. It's not worth the time it takes to discipline, but I could redirect and possibly for funsies misdirect because I'm irritated that they punched me in the knee or something. But I don't feel like actually taking the energy. Almost like a lion who's just eaten is very lazy.
Yeah, it's
So
not gonna-
like,
it's not gonna
so
be
there's a
good.
lot of so like, hey, you know, if you really want to, if you're that angry, I bet you're not even capable of doing blah blah blah. Whatever it is, and you know, so then there's a lot of ways you could tell the story that isn't just combat encounters, like
Right.
I eat, you get eaten, or you beat up the dragon.
Maybe the dragon puts you in a dungeon for an indiscriminate
Dungeon
amount of
dragon?
time.
Or the dragon
A
picks
dragon
you up
and a
and takes
dungeon.
you
That-
away
what
from
would
where
be
you're
funny is,
trying to
like,
go.
The
Okay,
dragon-
you guys get 2
the
years of
dragon dies
downtime
because of
in a
Yeah.
dungeon. How would you like
And
to
now you have
spend
to
it
find a
for
way
this
to get
next
out.
session?
You Scrooge McDuck in its pile of gold.
I've taken that beyond.
I like the idea though, like of the dragon just going, really? You're gonna bother me today? Cool.
Dude, like,
You're
okay.
scooping them all up in one claw,
Yeah.
flying them to some area and be like,
Yeah.
Right? It's like
Good luck with that.
I'm not
In the
even at least
opposite
magic
direction of where
teleporting
they're
you,
trying
even
to
if
Maybe
go.
they're petty and they just take
I'm
him to the
gonna
desert
literally
like you
drop you in a
deserve.
roc's nest and see if you can get out. Like and like it sits over on like another mountain, just like
Because it's just a
it's
higher
like
life
TV,
form.
It's like entertainment, right? It's like when there's that drastic a level. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's the idea of just giving them the freedom to do what they want,
yeah.
but also letting them recognize that there might be consequences to their actions that they're not even thinking about.
All right.
Or if you're trying to just make like a daily like interaction a little bit harder, just be harsher with their rolls. You roll a 1, you like do something more drastic. You fail more drastically.
Yeah. And I also
Laying
like
down numbers also.
what?
Numbers matter
Yeah.
to a certain extent. If the players can't be hurt by whatever it is that they're fighting, then numbers don't matter. But in that one situation comes in real handy. Oh, you fell, you dropped your helmet, now they're gonna hit you again.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or you slip in the mud and you slide down the hill and you're in this other region and you're like, uh-oh.
Hygiene.
Or you fell so hard now you have to take damage.
Fall
Like,
damage.
yeah,
I
fall
like-
damage.
there's another part of this. You said something, and I didn't get the verbiage exactly. But you said if the players
Verbiage.
aren't like they're staying in these low-level encounters, just like in a video game. Like,
Yeah.
are they, you know? And so in my
I was
head,
playing
are
Hogwarts
they
Legacy
are they
and I
milling?
didn't
Are they
realize you
trying
could fall
to
damage,
build
so I
resources?
jumped off
What's
a
it called? Farming.
Farming?
And so, and there was a part of it like
Anyone
when
climb
people
all
do
the way
that,
back
it's
down the
because they either-
mountain?
I
They
wouldn't
farm
either.
because they don't have anything else in the
aren't really
game
many
to do,
opportunities to
or they
take
farm
fall
because there's a very specific thing that they have to build up,
surprising
and the
that
only
they
way
would
they
add
know to
it.
do it is this. Fallout 2 is so frustrating sometimes. You have to get gecko pelts and go sell them 4 different places to get enough credits to get the armor necessary to be. Anyways, yeah. So like that farming is annoying, But if you're in, but also like if they don't know, if they're in this low level, it also could mean they don't recognize stakes larger world, which means it's possible you haven't seeded those. And so part of, like if they go to a small village, having someone travel through to provide those secondary bits of knowledge, or to have someone seek them out.
Yep.
Because, so I think there's, if they can have those low levels, and if they're seeking out lower level encounters, it could be because they don't recognize their character's trajectory potential too.
Why are
Or
they?
like, yeah.
What is the situation there that makes the fights too easy?
I underestimate or which one's the right one in this context?
I don't know.
Underestimate?
Depends what you're about to say.
I underestimate my players. Like I will throw a CR10 monster at a CR and a level 6 to 7 party, and they will beat it without anyone dropping below half health and say, "Was that really it?" And so I have to.
Maybe you need to have a talk with your players about respect.
It could
Maybe that's the issue.
So anytime, if a player's saying, "Is that really it?"
It wasn't like that. It was.
But it may feel that way.
Yeah.
Like
It felt that way.
So, well, I guess what are your thoughts on it?
Monster lives matter? No, like
Yeah,
the
kinda, yeah.
monsters can be smarter than their level, and I think that as GMs sometimes we forget that they can be clever and do things that they aren't expected to do. So use your ingenuity in some of these encounters to maximize what some of these creatures can do.
And make the drama of the combat moments more meaningful, so that it's not just
You fought him, he's
it's
gone.
not just hit points down, or I did a cool, and it's not just about hit points. It's every loss of hit points matters, because or that there's suspense enough, and then they're like, oh, I'm glad it was only 20 hit points and not 50 or something like that. Like so, sometimes it's increasing the drama of the moment by being a little more descriptive in the scene setting or in the motives, or adding the dialogue. It could also be. Could also be that if it feels like the combat is primarily are my hit points decreasing, that they're in a little too metagamey of a state and they're not owning the why that matters. You could always just double the damage dice too. Like if you're like halfway through, it goes into a rage and suddenly gets double damage dice. Done.
I always forget the improv on the
Yeah.
fly until
So
it's
that's
absolutely
I,
necessary.
it's about if the goal of the DM is to craft an experience that the players can engage with and feel, then it's okay. Like I'm okay adjusting stats as needed if the encounter is going too fast and I don't have anything else prepared, because I want them to feel a certain way, and the goal is the feeling that they get from the experience more than it is did they accomplish 200 hit points of damage.
Yep.
Right, and so adjusting the stats of the monster even in the moment, or adding a layer of complexity if they get to 0. Like that monster, does it shed its skin and you didn't plan it to be a 3-step boss, but hey, they got through that boss and it reveals if it was a oversized snake warlock and then they get through all that hit points and it turns into a skinny monk lady, right? Who's also who's still an evil queen but has this alternate shape. So it depends on how much you want to lean into it. But if it's really about the experience around the table, then it has to be shifted away from just hitting the right amount of hit points.
It does feel like your players are an experienced and cooperative group of players who may know a lot about the game itself. So once they know what the monster is, they're like, well, it can do X, Y, and Z. This is what we do to beat it. So you got to, like you're saying, switch it up.
Yeah.
Switch it up.
Now, Noella had a thought or two earlier.
I had a thought, but now I have 1.5 thoughts.
Okay.
Okay.
Start with the half.
All of this, well, they're like interconnected. All of this reminds me of I used to play Diablo and World of Warcraft and stuff. And in World of Warcraft, the monsters are isolated, the more powerful monsters are together and then the less powerful ones. So but if you can run really fast, then you don't have to fight anything. So I get on my bird and I just ride through Dinosaur Land because I want to go across Dinosaur Land and get somewhere else. And then in Diablo, it's the same thing. If you can run fast enough, you can just go straight through. But in that one, it's like the monsters are tailored to like what level you are and how powerful your weapons are. And personally, I liked Diablo. No, I liked World of Warcraft better, even though I stopped playing that and I still play Diablo. But I liked World of Warcraft better because I could like just talk to the NPCs and I didn't have to worry about fighting things that were like really high level, because if I wanted to fight something, I just go to the designated like level 4 area and then I fight things there. I only stopped playing it because I accidentally went into Dinosaur Land and they started eating me and I didn't know how to get out.
So you just uninstalled.
Yes, I gave up, okay?
On what is it, Isla Nubla?
And World of Warcraft, you have to have like a subscription also, so it wasn't worth the subscription if I wasn't gonna fight the higher level monsters and stuff.
Well, I did ask you to stay till 4:30, and it's now almost 4:45. I don't want to keep you
Well.
I
longer.
have a few more minutes before I
Okay.
have to go and get a key.
I feel like, did we get to what? How do you stop your from feeling? It's like, yeah. So, what is, when it comes to taking something from around the table, we've done some world building for a single table, or we have a plot idea, we've written it out as a narrative. Taking it from this, we've done some work, but we've done it kind of for a table. What's the step getting it from there to like a published product?
Ooh, a lot of steps. So,
Give us the rundown, the 3-step rundown.
No, give us however
The
many steps for
8-step
as long as it
rundown.
takes.
10-step rundown.
oh my God,
I'm sorry.
Nah.
What's your first thoughts?
2.
How about we meet in the middle at 5?
All right, we're gonna let him. We're gonna
what's the
let
human story? That's the big
What, say it
one.
again?
What's the human story?
What's the human story?
So every world story starts with a human story. So there's a series, Cassandra Clare, I think it was, Shadowhunters, remember that? Anybody know it?
I think I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
I'll go even further back, the Hunger Games.
Yes.
That's a human story, right? But it's really a world story. So the story of the Hunger Games is not the story of Katniss Everdeen. It's the story of Snow. And it's even larger than that. It's a story of
Revolution.
the revolution,
and,
the capital
all
and
the
the
districts.
districts, right? So you have to have that human story at the core, and then from there you have to show how that human story sort of relates to the larger. You have to have the larger story too. So those two things exist in the same space. How does one impact the other? So you have to be able to draw that line from this is a story about Bob to this is a story about how the universe is impacted by a super serum that's gone crazy, and now we have fake Superman. Bob, Sentry. Nobody got there. It's okay.
Wait.
Spoiler. If anybody wants to watch Thunderbolts, that's the whole plot.
Oh, I see.
Well, thanks for
You guys were talking about that in one of the live streams that I watched part of today so that I could
Well, now it's
answer
a
the daily
spoiler.
question.
When I didn't know anything, I wasn't a spoiler.
Probably from like a month
brain is
ago.
still pretty fried from last week, I'll be honest. So I'm not, like I almost put,
Fried Greg.
I almost, yeah. Not to detract from the thing, but like, yeah, so I just didn't get it. I almost threw away dishes. I almost put like plastic cat bowl bases in the refrigerator next to the milk. Like it's been that kind of weekend.
You have cats? Can I have one?
Not of mine.
Well, they're not mine. But there are two cats in my house.
If they have babies, can I have
Do you not
that?
want
Okay,
them?
They don't belong to me.
They're male and
And
They belong to my boys. And
I
If they're
mean,
male, they're neutered. If
give
they're
them away.
women, they're spayed.
So, okay, so you said
Greg.
first is you have to recognize the human story. Then how do we so we've got a scaled potential there. How, when it comes to building like a tabletop gaming module book or something like that,
Yep.
so then we've got the human story, what's after that?
So you have the human story. What's your angle? What's your like big world moment? Because the whole book points to that world moment. That change is being shown in that
It gives
world
it
moment.
like a focal point. Whatever the adventures are, however the
All that is the angle the
traverse-
player has in on the world moment.
Okay.
So like I don't know if this is a deal or not. Okay, I'm going to say this, and if I have broken NDA, my bad. So,
Don't let me
Might
let you
be.
get in trouble.
Might be.
I mean, are they gonna watch the video?
right. So there's a book called
Everything's legal if there's not a cop there.
Lethal Harvest, which is the culmination of a long arc of a Shadowrun world-changing adventure, and the book sort of gives the players points of entry on this larger thing that's happening, and lets them decide where they fall on what happens.
I was trying not to blink,
Ultimately, it's going
and
to
then my
happen,
body betrayed me.
but they have a say in how that impacts their particular corner of the world. That's the human story versus the overarching thing. And the larger books are usually about the overarching thing and connecting your individual mission to it. Like Forgotten Realms did it all the time. You know? We knew about that whole Forgotten Realms world story, but you just were interacting with that small part of it.
Like the Jit series
Yeah,
pops up in the 10 towns in the northern
Yes.
area for the first 5 or 6. Or
Right.
whatever books, yeah.
So you knew that all those characters were going to, same with Dragonlance series, like you knew what was going to happen, but you saw it through the eyes of those different characters. And when you're playing a role-playing game, you're one of those characters that world story is taking place through, and the impacts that the players have on that world story is pretty important. So if you want to print that, what you're going to tell, is what I told Garen before, is you're telling that human story, and you're giving us a lens into what the larger world story is. It's like Game of Thrones, which was initially written okay, never finished.
It's hard. He's really rich now.
I know, right?
You know, it's
It
really
told the
hard to be
story-
motivated to write when you're really rich.
Really, it told the story of
It's true,
a
actually.
family. It was a family story. Well, it wasn't a family story. The story about a family.
Not a family story, not family friendly
Right.
story.
All of them each having their own wolves, and that was like our focal characters for a while. But obviously, it wasn't. But that's the lens through which so many of us came to know that world.
So
And now somebody's regenerating dire wolves, which I find
it's hilarious.
freaky.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I heard
So-
about that. That's pretty cool.
So with Game of Thrones as an
It's
example,
gonna be like
'cause I don't
Jurassic Park.
think they've turned that one into an RPG yet.
Yes.
Yes, they have. Have you read it?
Everything's an RPG.
No.
Okay, so then I would say if you're looking at Game of Thrones, and I've only seen like the first 2 seasons, it was pretty intense for me.
It's intense.
And like I can't watch it with my family. So
Dude, I started watching it and my mom was like, you should watch it with us. And I was like, we got through the first season and I was like, nope, not anymore. No, I think I'm going to watch this on my
based on what
own.
you shared about your family that was okay. We're moving on. So like if you're thinking those, how would that book look? How would you structure the book, not to make it less human, but
The novel or the game book?
how would you the game module book for say season 1 or 2, whatever framework you want to give it?
I would talk about all the players involved. I would talk about all the places involved, and I would talk about the major events that are going to happen,
Okay.
and then write a lot of adventure threads for how the players can interact with those events, and what things the players can control in that.
So it's almost like, so would it be like you have a map at the beginning that says like 3 starting locations,
Yep.
and it's I'm just gonna, so the cold one near the north, the main, oh my gosh, it's been too long. The like main where the big throne with all the swords is, or the desert place.
Let's remember.
I'm sorry, like is that it?
This is a business, so each one of those places would be its own book. That's what
Okay,
you do.
so that actually helps though, because
Yeah.
I think
And then
sometimes
maps sold
thinking about the
separately.
size of the maybe.
That's why he's rich.
Right, okay, so then okay, we would almost have to start in the one. It's not the north. What's the actual family? It's my brain's.
Not the Targaryens.
I can't
Lannisters.
give anything to this
Lannisters, right.
conversation.
I'm sorry. So like, so
I don't
a book
remember.
just about the Lannisters and their area and like their interaction
King's
with the
Landing
north.
and all that, and,
Or-
yeah, and all those wars
me
and
to break
what they're trying to do there in the.
I'll just dissociate until
Okay.
we're back.
And then we might have a different one that leans into the plot hooks that
Going
are
on the north with the White Walkers.
Right.
And that's a whole different style of campaign, right? Because now you're fighting magical creatures.
okay,
Or
and
then you can go to
then
the other.
political intrigue in
Yeah.
the okay. And then the sand dunes, which is where we're learning, or whatever, where we get the Queen of Dragons, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
Daenerys.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
like,
Okay.
that's what we do.
Those are separate books. That's okay.
Right.
I got you.
And so what we started doing was even when we released the main sort of like Shadowrun book, like the source book, it's been rewritten like 4 times now. Because there's Shadowrun Berlin, there's Shadowrun Hong Kong, which is finished. No more NDA, it's over.
Nice.
Shadowrun Seattle, because that was the birthplace of Shadowrun. And is that the 3? Was there another one?
Yeah.
So you're saying, what you're saying is there's a lot of
Those are 3 I
potential.
can talk about.
So you're saying there's a lot of potential if someone wanted to write content for Shadowrun. There's a lot of potential if they decide to pick a place that hasn't been explored yet,
Right.
like Nairobi, Kenya, or never mind. That's too obvious of a place. No one would ever do that.
We just did a book that covered, I would say, parts of Egypt, and sort of leans into some other things going on in Africa. Africa's a weird place.
Yeah.
Antarctica.
Rio de Janeiro
I love Rio.
could be a fun one.
Oh, was it?
Puerto Rico.
Puerto.
My family's
So,
going to Puerto
okay.
Rico and I don't get to go with.
There's no power. Oh, God.
What?
Power died.
Oh,
Okay.
power.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like power as in like kings and
The
queens
rings of power.
Like the rings of
Rings of power. No. Like actual,
There's not a ring of power there. I don't want it.
They have to get that right.
Okay, we're almost. I think we're
You
keep
basically
talking
are
to the
almost
camera.
out of time. So what? Final questions, final thoughts about anything he's shared so far, or about his expertise as a novelist? What do you got?
Thank you so much for coming.
That's what I was gonna say, you liar.
Ah.
Whoa. I
to
have
it.
something less heartfelt than that.
I'm not
And
surprised.
flippable moments.
What's your favorite animal? What's
That just took me by surprise.
Okay, what's your favorite rodent?
Type of animal?
What's your favorite
Rodents?
what's your favorite rodent?
My favorite rodent is a capybara.
Real.
Love.
I mean, it's a rodent.
Do you
Oh,
prefer
come on.
capybaras
That's so
or wombats?
basic, though.
Whoa! Whoa!
That was mean.
I respect it, but it's basic.
Capybaras are not basic.
Everyone loves
A
capybaras.
rat is basic.
Capybaras or wombats?
Rabbit.
Which one's better?
Everybody loves
Capybaras or
capybaras.
wombats?
Not wombats.
Not wombats?
Wombats are
They're so cute.
So,
No, they fly and they can get me.
What?
Wombats can't fly.
Wombats are
all the
like almost
expertise Malik
capybaras.
has.
Wait, what am I thinking of? Like,
Wait, look
You
up
think of a
a
bat or
look up a
something?
picture of a wombat.
I don't know what's a wombat. I have sex. In my knowledge.
Yeah. Does anyone have any final story building, world building,
Related.
character building, tabletop gaming?
Okay, well you didn't say that.
I said
So
within the context of what we've been talking about. and
okay,
his
well I have
expertise.
selective listening.
I know.
So
I know. That's why I repeated it. So,
It's like Australian.
nobody understands.
yeah, quokka. I
How
love
would-
the
I have a
those the ones
question.
that throw their babies.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kaylee.
How would you build a quick NPC that still has depth?
Oof.
Pick a person that you know in your life. Put them in the game.
That's it.
So you encounter someone named Noella. She's a little weird.
Well, no,
and
give them a
goofy.
different name, but you can use their exact personality. I mean, pick like your mom or something.
I'm picking that
Is
one.
that well? I guess what gives a character depth? in
I'll
your
pick
mind?
your mom already.
In my mind, wants, needs, quirks. Those are the big 3.
So what do they want? What do they need? And what's weird about them?
Yeah.
Nice.
We tend to find people that how weird they are.
I just met you. What is this?
Yes. You know what it is. It's a
Yeah, you were at CoyoteCon. You met him at CoyoteCon.
Yeah. You haven't even heard me say weird things yet.
Yes, you just said 18 of them
Go
today.
watch the anthropology conversation.
I've said weirder
about
things.
cannibalism.
Defend her
You will-
statement that
You
she
didn't hear her talk about cannibalism, and you don't need to.
It just, Noella just takes one to know one.
Oh, Noella, the third
And nobody
version
said
of
weird was
cannibalism that
Where's
she
that
was
bad?
I'm weird.
Is gastroparesis or something like that cannibalism, where it's required by society.
Oh, we should do that.
Gastro-
You should do what?
We should make cannibalism necessary. You know what? Why don't people like cannibalism?
Because
not-
there's chemicals.
We're not going into this. We're out of time. And that's time, folks.
With that,
That's all,
Malik,
folks.
thank you for coming and hanging out. We would love to have you here more.
Good.
If you ever want to just do a one shot, you want to run a table, you want to commit to a every once a month game.
We do.
We're happy to have
Sometimes we do faculty sessions
You
where
can play with
faculty comes in
Donna.
and plays with us.
It'd be cool to get you in as a ringer and with new players because we had Donna Viola and Karen Villalobos came and did like a very fast like Women's History Month one shot, which the best I could do was there were female characters and female players, and then I'm like that's the best I could do.
And he wore a pink shirt.
Everyone else played a
Picture,
woman.
and
My
I
character was a
acknowledge I could
man.
have done better, but they did go.
Which is
through it.
gender stereotyping for women, by the way, on Women's Month. So.
Before we go, I
I
want to share
acknowledge.
a
Right
quote.
alone.
I didn't get the memo,
What did
so
you
I
say?
played a
What
man.
did you? What'd you get?
Oh, yeah.
Pay attention.
I'm playing.
No!
Oh!
You ruined this for me.
It wasn't me. It wasn't
I
me.
can't remember which
What
one
do
I
you
did.
mean?
I'm playing. He says my cabbages. I don't know why.
Right, it was just an Avatar reference.
I got Secret Tunnel and he got my cabbages.
Wait, but then why Noelle is so different?
Yeah, mine was.
You can see dead people.
Because I couldn't think of another. I wanted to give more than Avatar.
I see
references.
bread
You're
people.
the Avatar or
I
something.
was
like,
also trying to actively listen to what Malik.
The
was
Avatar can see dead
responding.
people,
That's true.
he can see his past self.
which is dead people.
They're dead.
They are
Greg,
dead.
you
They're
should have
very,
put
very dead.
eat.
And they
But I
possess
feel
them
like it's a whole
sometimes too.
different.
Yeah. And he can go in the spirit realm,
I'm
which
just
is
saying that
More dead.
the Avatar can see dead people is a little
I have to go
misleading.
get it.
Malik, thank
I
you
think
so
it's
much
not.
for being here. What,
I think it's just the right
so
amount of leading.
you have a novel that is purchasable.
Yes.
Imposter.
No.
Is there anything else?
Look, it's in the library if you want to just.
If you
check it out.
haven't taken English 102 or if you fail English 102 this semester, he teaches an English 102 ENH, English Humanities.
Oh, this summer, yes.
So this summer it's
102 and E&H
and it's the
Sci-Fi Learning Community.
Sci-fi film and literature.
That's right. We call it this summer. It's called.
That's
as you
not
know,
fair. I
it's
did dual
something different in the
enrollment.
fall called Future You.
Okay, the one in the fall's Future You.
Yep, it's gonna be
I need to
101,
change the marketing materials. Yeah. Okay.
101, and E&H 254.
Okay, I need to make sure my
You
materials
failed,
are up to
Greg.
date.
It was like, well,
Okay, but yeah, so shameless plug, it'd be a great wedding present for him and his soon-to-be wife because they're the teachers in the LC. If you know a friend, tell them there's a cool summer learning community
Happy almost
that they
wedding.
can enroll in.
there's also a creative writing class in this
Yeah.
for workshops.
Do I need a prerequisite for that?
I don't think so.
Is that the one you mentioned in
Do you have to
class?
pay
Let's
for
take it
that?
together. Yes,
All right.
you have to pay for
With
that.
that, he's got a kid.
If
What if
he
I just
gets
watch?
paid for that, we
Can I just show
It's
up and
online,
watch?
So
Can I get the link?
it's not a thing. You have to be in Gambus.
All right, we're gonna let Malik go. We can continue to shoot the breeze after and not make fun of him, of course.
No.
Why would
He
we
doesn't know
do
what
that,
I'm
Greg?
doing.
Why
He
would you
just
even
found
say
out.
that?
I was thinking of Pokemon.
They're cute.
I like leaving people with suspense. I wanted to know.
Because it said that, yeah.
Which is weird.
But
But
seriously, thank you so much. It was so cool having
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for hanging out. There's too much to talk about. Have fun. Enjoy family time.
You want me to take these books? You wanna
Enjoy
have
your
them?
almost wedding party.
You should leave them.
Will you destroy them?
I'll make sure they stay safe. I will do my best to make sure they stay safe.
We treat books nicely in this house.
Take them if that's the take
In
the
this
nice
classroom.
one, then. I will do my best to keep the others safe, but I also want to explore the world a little bit too.
All right, guys, let's eat chicken wings and read that book.
Okay.
Extra sauce.
Yeah, extra juicy.
All right. Have fun.
Hi,
Good to
stream.
see you. Thank you.
I've said weirder things. This was comparatively normal.
Yeah, it was.
Should I end the stream or do you guys want to keep talking?
No, we should do podcast episode. Podcast.
Okay.
Podcast episode, Greg. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Kermit the
Forget
Frog
to like and
will
subscribe.
happen
Yeah.
reading the first couple pages of The Hobbit.